The first scream isn't from a person. It is the pool itself, shivering under light like glass. Crowds cheer. Phones rise. Elena Price lifts her arm and smiles. The orca glides beneath the surface like a living shadow, slow and perfect, the kind of grace that hides enormous strength. Music swells. Elena's eyes stay on the water. She can feel when a beat goes wrong. She hears it before anyone else. A thin whine tucked under the song, like a mosquito you can't swat. The sound needles the deck and seems to stab the pool. The orca flinches. Elena's smile holds, but her pulse stutters. She lowers her hand and tries again, palm out. He turns, then stiffens, as if the water itself hurts. Backstage, a veteran tech looks up at the racks of speakers. "That frequency again," he mutters. "Levels are fine," his partner says. A manager leans into the intercom. "One more routine. Cameras are rolling. Don't stop." Elena hears the call, but her mind is on the animal. She kneels and touches the edge of the deck. "Easy, boy," she breathes. "I'm here." The orca rises and blinks at her. The eye isn't playful tonight. It looks like a door half open to a dark room. She signals a slow circle. He obeys, tight, neat, but the circle is shallow as if the pool shrank. The crowd sees shine and power. Elena sees a fluke that won't flick, a back riding high, a jaw that quivers. "Run the dorsal stand," the manager says. "We need the shot." Elena counts under the music. The wine fades. She gives the cue. The orca rises, but not to mark, then slides away and hangs, waiting for pain to pass. Up in the booth, the tech stands. "Kill the feed for 10 seconds. Do not touch that board," the manager snaps. "We're live." Elena lifts both hands, palms open, the sign for rest. "It's okay," she whispers. "We can slow down." She wants to believe trust is stronger than whatever is slicing the air. The orca's eye glides past again, wet and pleading. The chorus hits. The whine returns sharper, a blade nobody else hears. The orca jerks and tail slaps, not in threat, but like someone trying to shake off a bee. Children gasp. Elena stands still, hands low. "With me now." He dives, rockets up, stalls in a tower of spray. Lips pressed tight, teeth flash and vanish. He drops and holds near the drain, body rigid. The tech whispers, "It's pulsing." 9-minute cycle. "Stop talking and cue the breach," the manager says. Elena steps to the edge and kneels again. "We can skip it," she says. "You choose." "I'm not leaving." A junior trainer edges closer. "Elena, they want the big moment." "He is the moment," she answers. The whine wails like a knife across glass. The orca twists as if struck. He surges past Elena, bumps a buoy line, then rolls and shows his white belly. Something he never does in showtime. The audience falls quiet. His chest pumps hard. Elena lifts her hand, not for performance but for a station hold. "Stop, breathe, listen." "Cut the track," the tech pleads. "Leave it," the manager barks. Elena faces the booth. "Cut it now." There is a pause, then the track dips a notch. The whine thins. The orca softens, drawing close enough for her to touch the white oval near his eye. She doesn't. "Good boy," she whispers. "Tell me." He hovers, trembles, sinks again. The song swells back to full. The wine bites. The pool turns to a storm in a bowl. Elena fakes a laugh and bows to buy time. "We'll be right back," she says. The vet corner is empty. She is alone. The show ends on a half-trick and applause that feels wrong. The tech rubs his temple. 9 minutes, he repeats. Night. Empty stands. Black water. Elena sits on the deck with her phone set to record. "Okay," she whispers. "If you're real, sing." The orca surfaces and watches with that same pleading eye. 8 minutes pass. Elena closes her eyes. The wine rises from the deep, thin, cruel, unavoidable. It cuts through the phone and through her chest. The orca flinches and slides into the dark. Elena stops the recording and presses the phone to her heart. "I heard it," she says. "I won't ignore it." Under the deck, a tiny red light blinks. She stands. "Tomorrow, we find it," she whispers, before the music hurts him again. The first time she saw the scrape, Elena told herself it was nothing. A brush against the tank wall, a careless turn. But when it happened again, thin, pale lines along the orca's fluke, she couldn't ignore it. The marks looked wrong, too straight, too deliberate. And every time the underwater speakers gave that low hum, his whole body tensed, as if bracing for something only he could hear. She adjusted everything. Longer hand targets, slower sessions, more quiet moments at the glass where she spoke softly and let him drift near, his eye searching her face. "It's okay," she told him. "You're safe with me." But she could feel it. He didn't believe it anymore. When she asked maintenance about the hum, they brushed her off. "Algae deterrence," one said, "keeps the buildup off the walls." PR had their own answer. "System upgrades," they told her with a rehearsed smile, "keeps the show running smooth." One afternoon while she was rinsing a feed bucket, a junior trainer leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "They installed a new system without vet clearance." Elena froze. "Why?" "They didn't tell us. But the last time they did this, 2 dolphins stopped eating." The trainer's eyes darted to the glass wall of the tank. "Be careful, okay?" That night, long after the park closed, Elena stayed by the pool, crouching low and tracing the metal edge of the training platform. Her fingers found it, a sleek black box, bolted into the underside, no bigger than a lunch tin. A single red LED pulsed in the dark, steady as a heartbeat, silent, watching. She followed the cable back toward the sound system. "What are you doing here?" she whispered to herself. The Orca floated nearby, motionless, his head just above the surface, watching her every move. The next morning, she went straight to her manager's office. "There's an unauthorized device under the training platform," she said. "It's not part of any maintenance schedule I've seen." Her manager leaned back in his chair, smiling too brightly. "Focus on the routine, Elena. We can't postpone a sold-out weekend." "This isn't about the show," she pressed. "Something's hurting him." He stood, hand on the door, a silent cue for her to leave. "The crowd comes for magic, not technical delays. We'll handle it." She walked out with her jaw tight, her hands shaking. Down at the tank, the Orca surfaced beside her, letting out a long, slow exhale that misted in the air. "I'm trying," she told him, resting her palm on the glass. "I promise I'm trying." By late afternoon, the tension in the pool was worse. He startled at cues he used to love. His tail slapped once, hard enough to ripple the surface halfway across the tank. The other trainers joked nervously, but Elena didn't laugh. She could feel it building. Whatever this was, it wasn't random. As she headed to the locker room, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message was short. "Check the event playlist metadata." They hid the trigger in the music. Her stomach dropped. She opened the music file list for the weekend's shows. Buried in the fine print of each track's data were odd, unlabeled attachments. Tiny audio files, invisible to the casual listener. She tapped one. The sound that filled her earbuds was sharp, high, and cold. It wasn't a note. It was a blade. She ripped the buds out, heart pounding. "Elena," the junior trainer's voice called from down the hall. "Yeah," she answered, shoving the phone in her pocket. "You coming to the prep meeting?" "In a minute," she said, forcing her voice to sound calm. She leaned against the wall, the Orca's face flashing in her mind. How he had jolted when the hum began. How he had rolled away from her hand as if it burned. She thought of the red light under the platform, pulsing in the dark. In the pool that evening, she worked the routine slower than usual. He surfaced close, his eye locking on hers. It was not fear she saw there. It was trust, fragile and fraying. "Hang in there," she whispered. "I'll figure this out before they hurt you again." Somewhere above the deck, in the tangle of wires and speakers, the hidden tone waited for its next cue. And Elena knew, before the weekend was over, she'd have to choose between the show everyone came to see and the life of the animal she loved. The heat from the lights poured down like a second sun, trapping the stage in a glare that made the water look brighter than it was. The crowd roared, a wall of sound echoing against the tank. This was the moment they came for, the ballet of trust. To them, it was magic. To Elena, it was a test. She clipped the tiny chest recorder under her wetsuit, the weight barely noticeable but heavy in meaning. Not rebellion, just proof. If the sound came again, she needed someone to believe her. The Orca hovered near the far wall, muscles tight, movement slow. Elena gave the cue for the dorsal stand, an easy, familiar lift. At first, he didn't move. Then, with deliberate force, he pushed forward, closing the space between them. She caught the faint shimmer in his eye, not playful, not aggressive, something sharper. He dipped under her, body brushing her legs. And then the chorus hit. To the audience, it was music. To him, it was a knife. The tone was silent to human ears, but it cut through him like steel dragged across bone. His body jolted, head whipping sideways. The water exploded. Jaws flashed white in the glare. "Elena!" a voice shouted from the deck. She barely had time to gasp before the surge hit. The orca's bulk drove up from below, throwing her into the air. A wall of water smashing into her chest. She sank, blinking against the sting of chlorine and the blur of movement. Around her, the water shifted from blue to something darker. A scream tore from the stands. Another. The orca's fluke cracked against the surface like a whip. Trainers pounded the deck with long poles, shoving them into the water to push him back. But he didn't bite, not yet. In a strange, lucid moment, he did something no one expected. He rose under her, his broad back lifting her toward the air. She broke the surface, gasped, and reached for him, fingers brushing the slick curve of his skin. "It's okay," she started, but the tone hit again. The shift was instant. His body twisted violently, throwing her clear. Her head smacked the water, the breath knocked out of her. The pool became a storm, white spray, black and white muscle, the rip of water parting under impossible speed. On the control platform, a staffer lunged for the rack, hand on the main kill switch. "I'm cutting it," he shouted. A hand clamped down on his wrist. "Don't you kill the feed?" Another voice hissed. "Not on a full house." In the tank, Elena fought to stay above the surface, lungs screaming for air. The recorder pressed against her ribs. She saw the orca's shadow whip past under her, then circle back, close enough that she could see the fine scars on his flank. "Come here," she called, choking on a mouthful of water. "Please." He came, but not in calm. The tone stabbed again, his head jerking as though struck. He slammed the water with his fluke, the impact rattling the deck. Trainers shouted orders that tangled into noise. She went under. Everything muffled, just her heartbeat and the heavy rolling presence of the animal in the dark water. Something nudged her side hard enough to push her upward again. She surfaced, coughing, arms flailing for anything solid. From the corner of her vision, she saw the crowd break into chaos. Parents yanking children away, people scrambling up the stands, cell phones flashing, trainers on the deck jabbed poles toward the water, shouting commands that the orca ignored. "Elena," someone yelled again, panic now raw in their voice. Her lips felt cold, her chest tightened. Still, she reached for him. Her palm skinned his side as he passed, and for an instant the water stilled between them. The chorus ended. The track cut. The change was immediate. The orca froze, drifting in place like a sentinel. He hovered beside her, his massive head level with hers, eye fixed on her face. Around them, the chaos dulled, as though the whole stadium was holding its breath. But her chest didn't rise. The staffer on the control rack looked over his shoulder, eyes wide. "She's not breathing." The orca stayed where he was, silent, almost motionless, as if guarding her from something no one else could see. On the deck, someone shouted for the medics. Trainers leaned over the pool, hands outstretched. The water between them and Elena was only a few feet, but it felt like an ocean. The orca gave one slow blink, and the water rippled once more. The air above the tank was tight with the weight of what came next. Because everyone knew, the music was coming back on. The headlines came fast, each one sharper than the last. "Orca kills trainer." Photos of Elena's smile, frozen in brighter days, filled every screen. Clips from shaky cell phone videos, looped endlessly. Water thrashing, screams, the black and white blur of muscle and chaos. But what the world didn't see, not yet, was what she carried with her into that tank. The recorder on her chest survived, and when the audio was pulled, it revealed more than panic. It captured the moment the hidden frequency tore through the water. Not music, not a cue, a sharp, piercing ultrasound spike, timed perfectly to the show's finale. In a sterile lab, audio forensics slowed it down, isolated it. The readings were clear. The algae deterrent wasn't on a timer. It was wired directly into the soundboard, and the safety override disabled on purpose. During deposition, a contractor broke under questioning. "They told us any desync cost bonuses," he admitted, his hands shaking. "We set the deterrent to trigger off the chorus. No one said the whale could hear that high. No one had to." Elena knew, and now so did the rest of the world. She never made it to the hospital. Somewhere on that frantic ride with sirens tearing the air open, her pulse faded, but the recorder kept going, an unblinking witness to the truth she'd been chasing. The lawsuits came in waves. Elena's family filed for wrongful death. Animal rights groups filed for negligence. Former trainers spoke out, stories spilling into the public. The pristine image the park had polished for decades cracked beyond repair. Within a year, the gates closed for good. The once bustling stands gathered dust. The giant tank, once a stage, now lay empty. And in the quiet days that followed, the Orca was moved, not to another show but to a wide sea pen. No walls, no speakers, just salt and tide. The first night there, he floated at the surface for hours, eyes half closed as if relearning what silence felt like. In the weeks after, keepers noticed something they'd never seen before. He was sleeping again. At Elena's memorial, people filled the small hall until the aisles were crowded. Trainers, activists, strangers who'd only known her from articles, they all came. By the podium, a single photo stood in a wooden frame. Elena kneeling by the tank, her hand resting on the water. When it was over, most filed out in silence. Only the veteran tech stayed behind. He walked to the dais, set a folded note beneath the photo, and left without a word. On the paper, just 5 words. She listened. We will too. For a while, that felt like the ending. Justice, in the small ways it could be had. But months later, a reporter leaked an internal email chain. At the top was a file attachment, a test clip of the very tone that had triggered the Orca's panic. The message was brief, from a senior executive. We're seeing stress responses in all 3 whales. Ignore, fix after weekend. It was dated 3 days before Elena's last show. Some said the Orca had acted on instinct. Others swore he'd been trying to warn her long before the attack. But those who knew Elena best believed something else, that she had heard him. And in the end, she'd found a way for the rest of the world to hear him too. And once you hear a cry like that, you can never pretend it's just part of the music. Some truths are too loud to silence. Once heard, they echo forever, demanding that we finally listen.